This is the Urban Debate on Magic Bricks now. I'm Faye D'Souza. We have a very interesting debate for you tonight on which way the real estate sector is headed and what you should be doing during this festive season. But first, let's take a look at the headlines. Mumbai gets no respite from potholes. Both the BMC and the PWD are going to miss Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis's 15-day deadline to fix the roads. And the politics continues. MNS corporators Sandeep Deshpande and Santosh Duri apply for and are granted bail for intimidating BMC officials over potholes. The citizens, though, say enough is enough. Citizens get together in Mumbai and stage a silent protest demanding motorable roads once and for all. And in Bangalore, activists get a taste of the wrath of the garbage mafia. The mafia dumps garbage right outside an activist's home, a mess that she has to clean up herself. Let me first give you news that's coming in from Kashmir. Encounter rages on in Pampore. Security forces engaged with terrorists in the EDI complex in Pampore. 2 terrorists are believed to be hauled up. An army jawan and 1 police officer have been injured. This, in fact, is the 4th such attack in the last 23 days. Forces are now trying to minimize the damage and they're taking their time to flush the terrorists out. Also, to give you an update on a story we're tracking and pushing very, very closely. Mumbai's pothole nightmares are unfortunately going to continue. To remind our viewers here on Magic Bricks Now, we've picked up the campaign of bad roads in Mumbai a month before the monsoons began, and we pushed it hard enough for the Chief Minister to demand pothole-free roads in Mumbai in 15 days. Now, that deadline expires on the 13th of October, but the BMC and the PWD are both going to miss that deadline. In fact, Magic Bricks Now was running a counter on the channel on the Chief Minister's deadline on the 13th of October, and we'll tell you that not enough work is being done. On the other hand, pothole politics rages on. MNS leaders Sandeep Deshpande and Santosh Duri applied for and were granted bail by a Mumbai court. Both leaders were arrested earlier on Saturday for humiliating BMC's chief engineer of roads. They made him stand on the road and hold up a placard that says that he is responsible for the potholes in the city. They are now out on bail. But our debating focus tonight is the festive season. Now, every year in the festive season, there's a lot of noise that comes out of the real estate sector, offering discounts and freebies and attracting investors. It's also normally a time when people go out and buy homes. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you were invited to a housewarming or a Graha Pravesh? It's been a while. Buried under high debt and inability to complete projects on time, as we have a very troubled housing sector right now, and we haven't seen too much festive activity. We wanted to actually go out and find out what customers think and why the ordinary Indian citizen is not buying homes. Take a look.
I think it's become really difficult to buy a home right now for people. The property rates are really high.
No, not possible because every day properties के रेट बढ़ रहे हैं दिन बे दिन और मिडिल क्लास फैमिली को खरीदना बहुत मुश्किल हो गया है।
अभी तो बहुत मुश्किल है, पोजीशन बहुत टाइट है। अभी घर खरीदना है तो मार्केट तो समझो मामूली आदमी तो घर नहीं ले पाएगा अभी इतना महंगाई में।
नॉर्मल आदमी तो कर नहीं सकता अभी, मतलब 10,000 12,000 पेमेंट वाला आदमी बड़े बड़े टावर्स में कहाँ रह पाएगा। उनके एक्सपेंसेस ही नहीं बड़े, मतलब जो भी है उसका मतलब कर तो नहीं पाएगा।
मैनेजेबल ही है, अभी बिल्डर लोगों का माल ही नहीं बिक रहा है तो उनके पास ऑलरेडी पड़ा हुआ ही है, सब बिक नहीं रहा है तो प्राइजेस पहले से तो कम है।
In my opinion also it is really difficult to buy a house in Mumbai. A common man just can't dream also. Earlier at least people could dream they can have a house in Chawl or some government building, Mahada constructed building, but currently they can't think of it.
So after getting the flat, everybody should pay the maintenance fees and all, no? That will be also more than 5,000, 6,000. So common man will think that he can go for a rented house rather than purchasing a flat.
The rates are unnecessarily inflated. That's the reason it's not possible to buy a flat in today's scenario for a common man, even if a service person, to buy a flat because the hype which has been created by the builders.
Real estate is in a very bad shape. Yeah, it will take at least another 3 to 4 years to pick up.
Yeah, offers are there, but at the end of the season they are all same. So I don't think there is a huge advantage buying flat.
It's doing good. I mean, if you buy a flat, I'm hoping that you'll get good returns in the next few years. But yeah, I don't know. The problem is people are saying we won't have water in the next few years. That's the only problem we're facing as a city.
It's quite expensive. I mean, no takers. People who invested for the purpose of renting out are finding it difficult because not many takers for even on rentals.
I don't know actually. It used to be a place to invest in, but it's very expensive.
Well, that's the question we are asking this evening. This festive season, is real estate still expensive? Has it corrected enough to be accessible to you and me as customers? And should we actually go out and take advantage of this opportunity and buy? The question this evening is, why is the real estate industry so quiet this festive season? Is it really the right time to buy? Joining me in the studio, Anuj Puri, Chairman and Country Head, India, JLL. Ambar Maheshwari, CEO, Private Equity Funds, India Bulls Asset Management. Ramesh Jogani will join us through the course of this conversation. Pankaj Kapoor, MD, Lysis Forest. Sanjay Dutt, Chief Executive, India Operations of Ascendes Singh Bridge Group. All join me, and I understand Niranjan Hiranandani will join us through the course of this conversation as well. Anuj, I'm going to start with you. Why is the real estate industry so quiet this festive season?
So, Faye, it has been quiet for some time now. And, I had not expected that it would pick up this festive season either. So, it doesn't come to me as a surprise that there hasn't been enough activity or momentum on the sales. And there are several reasons for that. But, before I go into those reasons, it's interesting to hear the clip that you just played before this debate. It is very evident that the consumer believes that there has to be further price cut, rate cut.
But actually, Anuj, explain this to us. When the customers, so there were some customers who said, yes, stock is not selling, maal nahi bik raha hai inka. There were some others who said that it's still too expensive. Actually, explain to us what kind of a cut are we sitting on right now? Have we come down 10%, 20%? Where are we?
So we've come down between 7% to 21%. Faye, depending on project to project. So it is clearly, if it's a good A quality developer, they've been about 7-8%, and if it is a B, C, it's about 20-21%. But let me just say a couple of things. I dare say that you're going to see more price cut than where it is, because Faye, if it had to happen, it should have happened by now.
Anuj, in all fairness, you said that to me in Diwali last year.
And I'm telling you, it hasn't really come down since then. And that's the point that I was trying to make, is that it hasn't really come down. And what we are now finding is that the unsold inventory, leave NCR out, unsold inventory in other markets has started to reduce. What we are also seeing is that the end user has started to come out, and they are taking spots in an apartment building which have better views, higher floors, more Vastu compliant. Investor speculators haven't still come in. But buildings which are nearing completion, we're seeing a fair amount of activity by the end users coming in and taking, or there are end users who are willing to buy, just launched apartment scheme at a discount by good corporate developers.
Okay, so here's my question. If we were exactly in this position last year, and I know we were because we did shows during this era, we did shows during Diwali, when we had just launched this channel, we talked about how we're seeing a cut and we possibly won't see a cut even further. Why, if nothing has sold, and let's be honest, nothing has sold, why haven't we seen a further cut in prices? Sanjay, why haven't the prices come down even further? Why do customers still feel like homes are overpriced? And this is true for Mumbai at least. People still feel like homes are much higher than they should be.
My view is that, first of all, the developers have taken too long to really understand that how difficult the markets would be. And they've moved from denial to acceptance and embracement, and then eventually promotions and all kind of schemes to actually...
a patch of anger in between, because that's the logical process.
To somehow overcome the market challenges, and some of them have done good job because they've reconfigured their offerings and reduced the sizes, no frills, and they've tried to appeal, made it more affordable. But unfortunately, the affordable was still not affordable. And I personally witnessed some cases where optically it looks like the prices have been reduced, but actually you've discovered that the carpet area has also been reduced from the apartment, or you're missing some passages in between, and therefore it's really tight. And the customers who are end user buyers, as Anuj very rightly said, that is the segment which is buying in the market today. I don't think they still feel confident about the jobs. I don't think they still have a sense of safety around their work, wherever they are working. The markets are still very volatile globally.
So let's be honest, Sanjay, 2.5 years ago, when in 2014, when the current Modi government came into power, we all assumed that the sentiment that we were looking at would change, the economics would improve, jobs would become stronger, people would get big raises, they would buy homes. None of that has played out in that manner. The economics have not come in, have they? Because
none of those sectors which create jobs in this country really did that well. So commodities, oil, steel suffered globally. Then you saw correction in banking and financial sector. India also suffered on that front. And you saw many other sectors actually, even IT. We are already talking about the impact of Brexit and Germany and other volatility in the world, which will cause impact to Indian IT industry, for example. So, and on the other side, you look at it, US been actually surviving on insulation or capital funded by the government, and so is Europe. And now China is funding its own economy. So the whole global economy is actually living on incentives. And in India also, we are talking about now sunset clauses coming up, by the way, in the IT sector, which is the only sector which is now providing jobs. But those sectors' jobs, their affordability to buy home is very different. Right. And the developers have been creating products which are very different from those.
I would say,
Go ahead, Anuj.
I was just going to add to what Sanjay is saying. In addition to that, on the other side, what we are finding is that the confidence of the consumer on the product is just not there. So, those who have the jobs, those who have a willingness to buy, those who have the money in their pocket, they're also saying is,
that's true.
We don't know whether there is all the approvals in place, whether the financial closure of the project has happened, whether the timing that is being told to us is what it is going to be delivered in, and whether the product that is being shown today is what it is going to get completed. And
so there's a crisis of faith in this sector.
And I think that is where, Faye, you're going to see is, I dare say this is about as much about price coming down. I think this is about cleansing of the market. I think this is sort of a watershed period until you're going to see the more non-transparent, less governance, less ability to have financial discipline developers getting out of this market, and more maturity on the other hand, more consolidation happening, more customer-centric approach by the developers coming in. And I think we are in that phase. So each one is looking at it that, whether it's the price, whether it's the product, whether it's the developer. But I just see is that this is a consolidation phase. The weaker developers will need to exit. On the other side, and it may be 18 months, it may be 24 months. So this is not about pricing. If it was about pricing, I can tell you is, I can ask several of the developers to bring down the price. Still it will not sell. And that is where I'm saying is that the confidence is not there, and the confidence is not because of the price. It's just from the consumer, that whether the players who are in the industry today have the ability to deliver what they're promising or not.
Sanjay, I know you want to come in here, but I also want to first bring in Amber. Amber, you're investing money in this market, and I also want to pick up what both Sanjay and Anuj said. If there is a consolidation, if there's a sort of cleaning up of the system, and it's no longer an industry maybe 6 months or a year in, where anybody can come in without any sort of credentials and become a builder, where you actually have to know how to do the business, that will actually bring down supply. If it brings down supply, the prices will eventually start to move up again. Is that what you're betting on?
So not entirely fair. Okay. I don't think supply will come down.
So what's giving you confidence in this market to put your money in the market at this point?
Yeah, so 2-3 things. One is, so first of all, just to address the consolidation thing that you talked about, while, as Anuj mentioned, developers will die, some of them will get out of the market, and the larger ones will acquire the projects. Right, so that supply in my mind will not come down. It will maybe defer itself and so on and so forth. But really, if you actually look at it from an investment versus an end user perspective, the market today, right, investment dollars are certainly from an individual perspective not going into physical real estate anymore. For a variety of reasons, people don't believe that this industry or this segment or this particular real estate sector will be able to give them the return that people are used to associating with real estate earlier on. Having said that, end user demand continues to be there, as has been mentioned on this panel before, that the unsold inventory is declining, is coming down from the peak of third quarter 2014. It actually has come down quite a bit at a pace which is slower than what it should have been. But then a whole lot of things have to be lined up. Everybody has been talking about the growth rates, the GDP growth rate, the feel-good factor, the sentiment.
Right.
Sanjay mentioned about the volatility because of, a variety of countries, all of these developed markets are funding their own selves. My question is, why isn't India doing something like that? The biggest problem today is interest rates. See, the question that we're trying to address here is affordability.
Interest rates have come down.
But not enough. So, Faye, let me put this into perspective for a little bit.
I will grant you this, that the RBI has given us several rate cuts that banks have absorbed and not passed on.
That also is an RBI
is not
issue.
being felt by borrowers right now.
That also is an RBI issue. If I can just put this into perspective. Look, like I said, we're used to a certain amount of return associated with real estate. What happened in 2005, 6, 7, 8? If you actually go back to 5, 6, 7, 8 and see what was the scenario at that time, your rental yields were 4% and your mortgage rates were 7%. So the delta between the mortgage rates and rental yields was so low that if you could actually put out 20% of your margin money into a house, your EMI almost equaled the rental that you were paying. Today, the scenario is your rental yields have crapped to 2% and your EMIs are at 10% or 9% now. So you're right, while the RBI has corrected interest rates, but in my opinion, this time around, at whatever time it takes, in my opinion, it will take 3 to 5 years, but the interest rates have to come down below 7%. Your mortgage rates have to be below 7%, what we had about 15 years ago, to be able to have investment dollars from an individual perspective go into real estate all over again.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Pankaj here because Pankaj was smiling. I noticed when Amber was making his point. Pankaj, there are two things here. Yes, unsold inventory may have come down, but that's also because new launches have come down 50% in most of our cities. So unsold inventory is coming down because they're not being there's nothing added to it, as opposed to somebody actually picking things up at the pace we would expect.
I don't agree too much of it, and I don't think so there's going to be cessations in the new launches, because so much of land which has been acquired in past is lying over there. Builder will be forced to really continue launching, and I'm also seeing that the new launches pace is still higher than the sales which is happening. So that's why the inventory has been piling. So if you look at across India, we are having largest inventory. And if the government has to fulfill the housing for all, then the inventory should continue to be surging. Question is not our inventory which we should look at. We should look at that sales should really improve from here. So at the current level, if I were to see that cities like Mumbai, we have 45,000 units getting sold every year, and we have 246,000 units unsold available. My sales should grow 5 times for this inventory to become sustainable. So question is that how would we increase the sales rather than reduce the inventory level? Because if were to think about reducing the inventory level, then the government's all the plans will go haywire. So we should not look at. Another point which Amber raised, which is very, very important, the way he said that if you compare from 2005 till now, in last 16 years, I was comparing that the rental, versus your EMI was in 1.8 to 3 times, that ratio, and that is where the market was selling. Give you some statistics. Mumbai market was selling 66,000 units with the unsold stock of 60,000 units. Less than 10 months of inventory it used to maintain at that point in time. Now the sales has come down to 44,000 units, and the inventory has grown to 256,000 units. That's where the major issues and the problem which has gone up. There's one more point which I want to look at. I was comparing 2005, a person required only 6 years of saving to earn his own equity. Today, if a consumer has to purchase a property where he can go and live and go to his place of work, which interacts with his life, he has to work at least 16 years. So if we are sitting down and analyzing that why the market is not moving, the market is not moving because large sections of the consumers is ineligible to purchase. They can't afford it. They can't afford
And
it.
that's a message that the industry still hasn't gotten.
You know, that is, and another thing is like, you know, Sanjay said that you know, or Anuj also said that if prices were to go down, it should have happened 3 years back. If you look at the last 3 years, Mumbai and most of the cities, the prices are stagnant, more or less the same. Had they reduced at that point in time, they had the scope to reduce is because, you know, cost was not catching. What has happened during this period of time, last 4 years, government has exploited real estate more than the developer did. So the way the ready reckoner prices, the way the cost has gone up, there is no margin left. Today, when I am analyzing most of the developers, you know, projects, if I were to look at that, I do not see they have a margin. So if I were to look back and say that today ball is not in the court of the developer, ball is in the court of the government today, they have to rationalize the taxes for a builder to have a margin to reduce this to stimulate the sales.
All right. So here's my question, and I'm asking on behalf of all of our viewers who are watching right now. There will always be a huge number of people in all of our cities who want to buy homes, because people want homes, people want to live in homes, which is why we all, you know, we're having this conversation today. I want to understand from each of you, do you believe that this is a good time to buy a home? If I actually just want to buy a home for myself and for my family, this is the home we're going to live in, this is the home we're going to occupy, raise our children in, that's the kind of aim. We're not looking for investments here. I just actually want to understand if this is that point when we should go out and buy homes. And the only thing that would be contrary to that is if the prices are going to slide even further in 6 months, or if we're going to see a crash like it's being predicted in a year or so. Where do you see this market going? Sanjay, I'll start with you. Sure. Yes or no? Buy now or don't buy now?
Buy now, even though there is a possibility that in some micro markets prices may still go down, but in majority of the markets you will see that prices will more or less remain where they are.
So which are these markets that you believe prices will go down even further in?
I think markets where you see a lot of development, for example, central Mumbai itself, you see close to 15 to 20 million square feet coming up across the west of Mumbai to east. You go from Annie Basin Road all the way to the new Cuff Parade, for example, so you'll see plenty of supply.
That's also pricing in 40 crore rupees and upwards. So I don't know if my viewers are particularly eyeing that sort of those sort of projects. So, it might be the problem in central Mumbai as well.
Whatever it is, so you have this catchment. Certainly, markets like Goregaon, markets like on Thane, where there is a lot of supply, for example, and fortunately much closer to the people who can afford to buy, you will see a lot of activity. So I think this is a good time to buy. Anuj also mentioned that this is the right time to pick up the best property. In fact, I would say buy now, buy ready buildings, and buy closer to the city, because you will never get this price again. And the economy will pick up. We've seen office absorption pick up.
Also tell us, I mean, you talked about Mumbai, but I'm also interested in Bangalore and Pune and Hyderabad, in the Delhi NCR market. Where do you see those pockets of opportunity, the Thanes and the what you mentioned, the Navi Mumbais? What is the Thane and Navi Mumbai of Bangalore?
If I was to say the same thing would actually apply to many other cities. Majority of the jobs are being created by the outsourcing IT and IT-enabled services sector. And they happen to be in Navi Mumbai as well as in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, Chennai and Gurgaon and Noida. All of these markets, there is actually enough volume if the developer is creating the right product which the working class there can actually afford to buy. And I think those are the areas where you will see some appreciation in prices over the next few months as well.
Anuj, buy now?
So I would say certainly for investors and speculators, it's not the market. For the end users, it is the market, but I will put two caveats, and these are very important caveats. One, exactly what Sanjay said is, that buy.
Interesting. I think, sorry to interrupt you, but investors and speculators, I think in the last couple of years have found new professions. I don't think there are any investors and speculators left
I'll tell you who's making money now. I think it's the lenders making money.
We'll get to Amber in
I think they're the new investors.
We'll get to Amber
in a investors making money.
Anuj, go ahead.
I would say for your audience, I would say is two caveats, and make sure that those caveats are there, because I don't want the channel to wrongly represent. One is, as Sanjay said, is buy near completed or completed. The risk is very low. Second, if you're buying under construction or launched, make sure that it is a good developer who has the financial closure, who has the approval, who has the past track record of completing the buildings, and you have a reasonable control or view of the time that it is going to be to complete the building. And I would say is those two will be important. Don't go necessarily for a price reduction, price cut, and then get caught out with a wrong developer, because that 5, 10, 15, 20% of price will cost you your full capital itself. And I genuinely believe
Anuj, if you're saying that, and we're just looking at these, the multiple jackets on the Times of India, and we know that even when someone's getting a jacket on the Times of India, that's when they're really pushing something.
Right.
Pay 0% on bookings, 70% at a certain point, the rest on possession. There are some that even pay almost nothing now, and the rest on possession. Would you believe developers who are in a position to make these offers at this point?
So, Faye, one will really need to look at the fine print, because I'm not so sure that once you get into some of these things, you will find it the way that it is being represented. And I say that very clearly because the developer would have tied up back-to-back a mortgage with the bank, and the bank is going to give a credit to the buyer. So it is being represented in such a way, but ultimately it is going to be the buyer who's going to come in, and he's the one based on whose income there is going to be loan given by the bank with which the developer has tied up.
Right. Pankaj, do you agree?
I have a different point of view. I have seen wherever the project does not have viabilities, and I've seen from the past also. If you look at in past, the locations which were sold to the investors were uninhabitable, and whosoever have constructed and ventured in those locations, I'm seeing those are the projects which are having a major problems. And another side where the property were sold at much higher rates than the prevailing market rates at that point in time, all those properties are showing a kind of a distress in the current market. Wherever the pricing were at par with the market, where the demand was interacting, most of these projects has really done good. So very important aspects is that
I'm actually going to ask you, based on what you're looking at your screen right now, and I think we've interestingly come down from 20% down payment to 15, then we went to 10, then we went to 8, then we went to 7, 0% down payment.
Absolutely.
Explain to us what 0% down payment means.
Absolutely, I completely agree. This is very big deceptions, and one should not really fall prey to it. And I've recently seen also in one of these exhibitions which has recently held, someone was offering a project in Kandivali at a 1 BHK at 46 lakhs rupees, and I asked him, is this project viable? He says, no, I am just doing a financial closure. I just want to sell it at cost. And I feel like such kind of an offer, frankly speaking, does not ensure project viability. And in past also I have seen many times where the developer resorted to sell at much lower rate, given different kind of schemes in order to get some money, and eventually later on I've seen those projects does not really take off. And in the beginning, the investors feel, the end user feels that I'm getting such kind of a deal.
So you're saying these sort of deals that are too good to be true are often too good to be true?
No, true. It's always been like that. It's too good to be true. It has never been very good. I have not come across one single project. I can give you, without citing the names, a couple of projects which came in 2000.
Please cite names.
I don't want to really. I want to really.
You're always free to cite names on this show. You can go ahead and give us the names.
No, I can't really, and I don't want to really bring more trouble to myself. But there has been cases where the projects offered at very low rate in the beginning because developer needed money, and at the end of it, when developer themselves seen the prices have surged, so they changed their mind and they did not deliver, and it has been number of cases in the market. So very important to see that you are at par with the market, everything is on board. You have to see whether the approvals are there or not.
Let me bring into the conversation Niranjan Hiranandani, who has just joined us. Mr. Hiranandani, good evening and thank you for joining us. We're talking about a distressed real estate market, sort of coping with the festive season, putting on a good show, a strong face perhaps, but we can see the scars, and we can see the distress right now through all of the jackets that are on the front page. We want to understand this. Are the deals that are currently available in the market too good to be true from absolutely distressed developers who are just trying to offload or sell anything at this point? How should a customer react to this sort of, these sort of offers? 0% down payment.
Well, Faye, to be honest with you, everybody should be very delighted. I mean, if they're getting great deals, why not take them? So I think the customer should be very, very, very happy. And, I mean, when things are going up, people are complaining that the prices are rising. Today, if the prices are coming down or they're getting deals which are unbelievable, they should take it. But, of course, there is always a but. Because the capacity of the developer to be able to deliver or the track record or the fact that he has been delivering in the past is a question mark. And especially with RERA coming in and the amount of money which is going to get impounded is a second story that we will have to address. So I think great deals, one should really grab it and take it. The faster you do it, the better it is. I think every customer should look for such deals. And if they are getting it from a good builder, please buy it. I think you should recommend it too.
Mr. Hiranandani, I want to ask you about the Chennai market. I know you're active in the Chennai market right now. And our sources tell us that Chennai has come to a grinding halt in construction, in sales, in investor activity, in every way. Tell us what your reading of the Chennai market is right now.
See, I think what has really happened is people are waiting and watching. I think there is a actual buyer market which is latent, and it is there in the Chennai market, both on the investor side and the actual user side. We've started some plot sales and we have got huge interest in the last 4 days. So I think I see a beginning in a different sort of way, but you can't do the usual things which everybody is doing. You got to make some sort of a difference in terms of what you are producing. For instance, when we have now gone into plots, everybody is now looking at plots, but having entered the market, we are finding a good sales in that segment.
So you're only selling plots and not apartments and villas, Mr. Hiranandani?
Those people who had come in... No, we are also selling flats, apartments and villas all together, but we are also selling plots. So you have to change the product mix depending on the suitability of the market. So today we are selling apartments at the high level luxury element. We are looking at a low cost element. We are looking at villas and we are looking at plots. So we are doing a combination of all the 4 segments. Today we find the plot sale is very hot.
Plot sales are very interesting. Amber, Sanjay made a point that it's only the lenders who are making money in this market. We do know, of course, that lenders, there are several projects that in the construction fields are mortgaged with lenders. Lenders then have to recover that money from people who are buying. Explain to us, and I'm going to call you out on this because we know of end users who've received NOC letters from lenders who've said that developers have to put money in an escrow account. If the money doesn't go into an escrow account, the lender will take over that apartment, leaving the customer where? How does that work out? Tell us how these deals are working out in the market.
So, fairly simple, Faye.
For you, yes.
As a lender.
It's not for the customers, though, unfortunately.
No, so it's a good thing for everybody. I think, lenders bring out a huge amount of discipline in the developers and the way they operate. Right, so every lender typically insists on an escrow account. Everything that a developer sells has to first go into a designated escrow account, which is partly controlled by the lender as well, so that the use of that money could be specified by the lender. That is, the right amount of dollars should go into construction, the right amount of money should go to the developer, and obviously the right amount of money should come back to the lender as well as the repayment that the developer had promised and so forth. And that discipline is very, very critical. In fact, I would think that, it's because of these lenders today that some of the developers are actually, behaving in a manner as they should. So that discipline becomes very, very critical. And I think that's what we guys, go out and propagate.
All right. I'm going to jump back to Mr. Hiranandani here. Do you agree that lenders are currently being the police constables on the road that are necessary to keep the developers in check?
Well, they can be police constable for a couple of months more because RERA is going to take over, and after that the government regulator will become the police constable, I feel. So whatever may be the constabulary in terms of management today, I think RERA with all the regulations and restrictions are going to move out pretty fast, and the rollout is going to take place. Maharashtra will probably roll out the first, and I think we can expect that any moment in the next couple of weeks That is what is being announced. But I agree with Mr. Maheshwari that yes, I think they are putting conditions as far as the lenders are concerned, but you can understand when the markets really go down, it'd be extremely difficult for any lender really to be able to recover the money if there is no sales at all. And then of course they would have to go to the double security that they are looking for. But my reading is personally that rationalization will be good for the industry in the long run, because then those elements which are here for a quick buck will have to move out of the industry, and people who remain in the long run are going to invest the money, wait for the long-term profits, and also the financial institutions will be more happy to deal with them.
All right, let's talk about these long-term profits of the real estate industry. Now, enough has been said about the fact that we can't expect the kind of returns we received from real estate in the early part of 2000, whether it's 2004, 5, 6. That's not going to happen anymore. We're going to have to give our investments a much longer period. I want to understand how much longer and where these real returns are going to come from. Anuj Puri, speaking of all of our big markets, whether it's Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai, NCR, Mumbai, where do you see the real potential? Whether that's going to take 5 years or 10 years, where is the real potential?
I think, Faith, the real potential is really in all these cities, but I would say is not in an established location within the cities, but the emerging markets within the cities. For example, in Mumbai, if you were to take it, I'm a big fan of New Bombay. That's where I'm seeing a huge amount of IT getting consumed. That's where social fabric has been built up. That's where more reasonable housing is coming up. The connectivity is improved. Hopefully the new airport is going to come in, and that's where you're going to see in many of the other locations, whether it's Hyderabad leading up to the airport, whether it is Bangalore leading north to the airport, OMR in Chennai. And that's where I think is, if you were to ask me to put in money for the next 5 years, I would see a lot more appreciation in properties there. But having said that, if you...
Well, Anuj, other than projects that Mr. Hiranandani is working on, give us other names as well.
So several names that you're going to find, and these are all established players who have taken up big positions in these markets, Faye. So I'm not going to be able to rattle all the names.
Okay, so Anuj, tell me about the NCR market. Now, NCR we know is the most distressed of all. We also understand from the research that our reporters are doing that there are heavy cash discounts in this market right now. We have developers who've come on camera and said that we're selling 1 crore rupee apartments at 85 or at 80 and sometimes at 75 if you push the bargain hard enough. That's a huge cash discount. Those cash discounts are not available right now over the counter anywhere else in the country. Do you expect any of the NCR region to recover, and when?
So, Faith, first I will put the same caveat I said is, please don't go with that cash discount of 15-20 lakhs. Make sure that you're doing your due diligence. Make sure that the product, either it's fully completed or almost near completion, or if it is in the launch phase or if it is under construction, it is of a credible developer. There is no point paying 85 lakhs and not being able to recover your monies. And there is enough instances that we've seen, certainly in the NCR market, where the developers have taken more money from the buyers and there is insufficient money left to complete the project. So clearly that's the first caveat, that don't just go by a discount that is being provided. Second is the NCR market. I think is that market was the biggest market. It's 50% of India's residential real estate as far as the number of units is concerned, and that's the market which will take the longest for it to be able to consolidate and come out. Just like what Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani said, is that it needs to go through that consolidation. As a developer, even he doesn't believe that that's a wrong thing to happen. I think on the other side of these troubled waters, we're going to see maturity, and certainly NCR market will be the last that will emerge out of these troubled waters.
Right. Sanjay Dutt, Thane Bhelapur, are you buying up commercial property there? You're going to put up an office. Can you tell us what your outlook is for that stretch of land?
Approximately 500,000 square feet used to be the absorption on Thane Bhelapur Road about 4 years ago. And today it's about 2 million square feet per annum. I believe it's going to go and become 3 to 4 million. And that's largely because MIDC has been very intelligently, with the support of the government, has increased the FSI. So cost of FSI has come down for IT. And it has made Thane and Hinjewadi one of the most competitively priced IT locations in the country. Therefore, competing with Hyderabad, Pune, Bangalore, all those micro markets. So what Anuj said is exactly what I'm saying. A lot of demand for end user willing to afford an IT salaried employee would invest in those corridors, and there'll be enough volume.
Well, you skirted my question about whether or not you're buying up land from Ascendis or, on behalf of Ascendis at Thane.
We are very keen to buy there, and we're exploring. I've personally been promoting that location. We're betting on Mumbai as well overall.
Okay, betting on Mumbai as well. So Thane, Velapur there, an interesting option. Give me an outlook, Sanjay, on Hyderabad. Now, we were looking at numbers of the kind of movement we've seen in prices. And an overall city level, Hyderabad has actually shown a movement where a lot of cities have not. So is it that dark horse that was being predicted last year will turn around because it's been so quiet for so long that Hyderabad will actually do well?
Actually, Hyderabad suffered for many years, as you know, because of the Telangana issue, as well as the overall market sentiments. It actually was on the negative list for many investors and private equity firms, even NBFCs. And now with increase in office absorption, confidence is returning, political climate is good, it's kind of the underdog, it's kind of catching up. I think it's still very attractive in terms of investment per square feet price that you look at and the quality that you get in that market. You will continue to see an increase in prices in good locations. So I think it will outperform in percentage terms. But I wouldn't say this is growth, because this is actually a lot of catching up that the city genuinely deserved to see, did not see, and now is seeing enough activity.
All right. Amber, if we consider the fact that everybody is still looking at two things, the route to the airport and the IT sector. And in those two cases, there's still Bangalore, Pune and Navi Mumbai that has a lot of juice that it can still soak up. So then does it make sense at all for anybody to consider Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, any of the tier 2 that comes in after these lists, because there's still so much to be had by the three neighborhoods that I already named?
So on a tier 2 city front, I think the growth will certainly be there. They're not going to be isolated from the growth if and when it picks up. But by virtue of the size, the limitation would be the depth of the market. The amount that you can sell and the amount that could be bought, that is going to be a challenge in tier 2 cities. So while a Hyderabad or a Bangalore would do 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 units every quarter, Ahmedabad would probably do 2,000 units. Nagpur would probably do 2,000, 3,000 units, right. Things like that. Right. But that is not to say that the percentage increase that we're talking about, whether it's in Hyderabad or whether it's in Bangalore or any other city, these cities will also show and display a pretty nice percentage increase in prices, except that the quantum of that will be limited.
Right. Pankaj, I rarely have a debate in this channel where everybody seems to agree with each other. Yeah. Do you agree as well that there are some pockets of promise still left in this market that we can go after?
I say that it's not a pocket, it's a values. So if you look at when Sanjay said that, because of the Telangana issues and all those things, since in past prices had not really gone up for Hyderabad, that's why there's a productivity built in. And that's been the case of most of the micro market. If you look at, so there are two reasons for any market to really grow. Is like if I say real estate, if I add a rental yield and property appreciation together, so you should have 5.5% of optimum rental yield for residential, then it should give you 9% of capital appreciation generally. If the market is not capital driven, when a lot of money is being, so it is actual growth. So 14%, 14.5% is what is the ratio on which the real estate generally gives a return. When the rental yields comes down, which is 2%, that means capital values are higher, so there would be downside pressure, and that's basic reason last 3 years we are seeing a subdued market and the prices not appreciating. So in today's sense, if I were to sit down and look at any market, where I have 3.5% plus rental yield, I don't really see in those markets. Then I also see there are some infrastructure improvement which is going to take place and all. So if I were to see that if the coastal road happens, if the metro work starts coming in, especially the western suburban region, so I see today the polarization for the next 4 years or 5 years will be happening more towards the western side, which frankly speaking was going through a kind of a stagnant period.
Right.
So Malad West, Goregaon West.
How long will that take to happen though? 5 years?
It is going to take 4 years, but market has always taken a, advanced appreciation. So every improvement which is expected to be there, so market tends to take advanced appreciation. So my own sense, the same thing happened to the Chembur if you look at. When the enhancement and improvement was to happen, so the one market where the maximum
that's a fair point, but we have to remember that the coastal road, while the government tells us will be ready in 3 years, is a hugely complicated project and is going to be run by the BMC, which is still struggling to meet its 15-day pothole deadline. So, when the coastal road project, if the coastal road project is ready,
so
then
whatever
you see
I said that you can discount by 50% because the probability of happening will be.
So, Faye, that's exactly the point. You don't have appreciation of real estate after the projects, the infrastructure projects are in place. It is the announcement of those projects or anticipation of infrastructure coming in, which results in an appreciation in real estate. There has to be a risk involved to be able to get a high return.
One more point which I say that with the current government, the probability of happening has improved, and that's why I'm more optimistic.
All right. I want to put Niranjan Hiranandani in the spot, and Mr. Hiranandani, I'm going to assume that your locations of choice are Navi Mumbai, Thane and OMR in Chennai, in that order. What locations would you avoid altogether?
Basically, I think the urban areas and the periphery of urban areas which we have chosen in the past are still doing extremely well. So if you look at the periphery, the Thane, Navi Mumbai, Panvel belt, or the periphery of Chennai, or the and of course, I think everybody forgot Gandhinagar. We are putting up the first international financial center, which will be inaugurated in vibrant Gujarat in January of 2017. So I think that's going to be coming up. There is the International Stock Exchange coming up. There is a reinsurance center coming up in Gandhinagar. So I think that's also going to have a boost in that area. So I think the places which we have chosen by and large, Pune, this part of it, I think there is still not yet a pickup in Nasik to the extent that we expected. So I think that's still taking a second position as far as others concerned. But all the rest of the areas, Khandala, Alibag and the rest is looking very, very attractive.
All right. So this is a question now I want for
you talked about the infrastructure development on the western side. My view is that the eastern side is going to be much, much stronger. If you look at the railway lines, which is from VT to Panvel, Panvel to Karjat, the Cross Harbour Bridge, the Navi Mumbai Airport, the Sion Panvel Expressway, all this combination on the eastern side probably will open the MMR region much, much faster. And I think the growth in that sector looks to me very attractive.
Mr. Hiranandani, your Panvel project is now open for
a
booking.
Resurgence on the eastern side.
What is the affordability in the Panvel project right now? Tell us what the range of apartments is available at.
It's around, the apartment price is around 6,000 rupees a square foot, and we have a commercial segment, and we are building 2 million square feet of commercial, which will be ready by the end of the year. And we are looking at about a range of about 35 rupees a foot on the commercial side. Both I'm sure Anuj and Sanjay are not going to agree with me that it's going to be absorbed tomorrow, but my expectation is in the next 18 months it will get absorbed completely. So we are actually in fact starting to work on the second 2 million square feet. So we will add about 4 million square feet in the next 2.5, 3 years.
All right, so our entire panel incidentally agrees that this is the right time to buy, but I want to understand what we should stay away from and what we should be avoiding altogether. Anuj Puri, is there a market that you would completely caution buyers away from, or is there, is there a certain kind of deal that you would completely advise people to stay away from at this point?
So two things I would say is, Faye. One, I am not a big supporter of tier 2, tier 3 markets. I haven't seen the kind of growth, the kind of economic activity in some of these tier 2, tier 3 markets.
So to be clear, no Nagpur, no Nasik, Bangalore, Kochi, none of that works.
So clearly from my point of view, Indore, Nagpur, Chandigarh, Nasik, many of these markets, really doesn't work to the extent that we assumed that they would. I'm not saying that there is still not growth in those markets, but there is no new economic activity happening. I mean, these are still traditional markets, they are trading markets, or they're very local manufacturing markets. Until you create new service sector, new industry, there is not going to be vibrance of real estate coming in. So that's from a point of view of an external buyer who's wanting to get into these markets, I would say, stay away from that.
Right.
The second I go back to that it is not about the deal. It is exactly what you said at the beginning of the show, that it is not about front page in a jacket where you've got 0% now and balance to be done later. I think it is about doing more homework, more diligence, more hard work before you're actually going and buying your property.
Sanjay, before we started the show, we were sitting around talking about the traffic and how long it takes to get to this studio from wherever you are in the city. And my concern right through this monsoon has been the eastern side of the western suburbs, around the Western Express Highway, which has been an absolute nightmare. And we've run a campaign for 4 months to get the Western Express Highway resurfaced, and we haven't managed to do so. The Chief Minister hasn't managed to do so. In my experience, in my opinion, anyone who buys right now in those parts of the city, whether it's Kandivali East, Borivali East, further down from there, the trains are overloaded right now. The highway can't handle that stress. So, do you expect any sort of fill-up for those neighborhoods, or are these neighborhoods that would you avoid completely?
I don't think you'll be able to avoid these neighborhoods, and the reason is very
obvious. So if someone is going to buy right now, would you say just go to Chembur or go to Ghatkopar or Vadala or Panvel? Because Borivali is not going to see any sort of daylight until the coastal road comes in.
No, I tell you why. Because the point that earlier we all made, that when the price is going to come down, my view is price is not going to come down. The fact that the infrastructure is so poor that you would not go all the way to Bhinder and Mira Road to live, and you would pay a premium to live in the city, and that's why the prices keep going up. That's why the prices don't come down. That's why the carpet area keeps going down.
Such an unfortunate truth
because you don't have any hope of infrastructure catching up with the extent of development that is happening. Second, if you really want to get employed, you have concentration of commercial pockets. So it's low. It used to be Nariman Point, Fort and Balad Estate, Kolaba. Now it is Lower Parel, Worli and BKC and Andheri. Goregaon is coming up very large and fast. And then you have the Navi Mumbai opening up. When these hubs of employment are right here in these pockets, how do you expect people to go further and further and live? So unless you create economic activity, which is what's happening through IT on Thane Belapur Road, that is what we keep saying. For that buyer segment, they will create opportunities in those markets. But when you talk about banking, financial, advertising, media, corporate houses, stock brokerage, legal firms, they all going to live here. You send a legal firm to Navi Mumbai, they will shut down their business. So I think that's not going to go away. Right. So you'll have to live with it. You'll have to bear with it. And I think we made a point earlier, the government has also now needs to realize, because government has made so much of money, and I think Niranjan will highlight on that aspect, all the premiums and the taxes that have gone up.
True.
The reason why developers are not able to bring the prices down is because they're out of pocket already.
So it's the government over the last 3 years. A very good point that was made. Mr. Hiranandani, Pankaj mentioned that developers are no longer making the money out of real estate. It's the government that's making money out of real estate. And the lenders. Speaking of which, Ambar Maheshwari, what sort of neighborhood would you completely avoid at this time if you were buying as an end user?
As an end user, buy as close to your workplace as you can. So if you're working in, say, Lower Parel, if you can't afford Lower Parel, maybe go to Chembur or some such thing. But really, real estate being local, it has to be very, very local. Infrastructure is not going to get better in a hurry. We all know that. It is going to be continuing to be a challenge and so forth. So buy something which is close to where you work. And, these days a whole lot of...
what about in the other cities?
Everywhere. I think, look, Bangalore traffic is really bad. Gurgaon traffic is really bad. You name it. Hyderabad probably is one of the better cities in terms of traffic today. But with the kind of growth that we're talking about, very soon the growth will catch up there as well. And one of the reasons, I completely agree with Sanjay on the pricing front. Ironically, wherever there is infrastructure, the price does not move up for real estate. Real estate prices only move up if the infrastructure is bad.
So the truth is, and this is what we campaign for in this channel, that we push constantly for better infrastructure in our cities, because we'll be able to get to work faster, and we'll have better priced
Affordable
real
real
estate,
estate.
affordable real estate.
Absolutely.
Price, simple infrastructure in our cities, what we wanted, what we want all this. Sanjay, you had a point to make?
Yeah, I want to make a point that it's also about how you actually create opportunities in the market. So if you look at job markets, and if you develop products on that basis, you will see a lot more traction. Somehow developers last few years just been busy restructuring their debt, repackaging their existing projects, relaunching their product mix. And I think not enough new has come out to really cater to the exact end user demand. Somehow the projects were always all about speculator,
so
investor.
What you're saying is basically they're just rebottling old wine instead of finding out what people really want to order at this point.
Also, while the prices have not gone up and stagnant and some correction in some places, by the way, the increments in salaries have not gone up either.
Yes.
In fact, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have taken a haircut in their salary. A lot of people have received 1 or 2% or 5% increase in salaries, and therefore that's really not a good condition to be in.
Pankaj, very quickly, we were almost out of time, but in an industry where real estate is not constructing as much as it used to, that's one of the reasons why our unemployment numbers in this country right now is as high as it is. What would you, if you had to give one word of advice to our viewers buying in this festive season, what would it be?
I see this going to be, economic harmony which is happening. So interest rates started coming down. Developers are not that stubborn. They are reducing the rates. There's a huge inventory. So if you look at it, we were looking at the value of inventory today is 8.4 trillion rupees, which is probably higher than a couple of countries' GDP. So really? Every year we add around 348 million square feet of real estate, which is close to 1.8. So frankly speaking, if my economic efficiencies takes place, if the price does not really surge from here, I think that you would find that good amount of sales which will come by, and the whole economy will start really moving. So if we sit down and analyze the market from the different perspective, we brought so much of money, and then if we see the slowdown in the economy, that's where somewhere we have not done a disciplinary productions of that particular money, and that's why we are facing the burnt of it. Today from here I see the things is surging in terms of sales, in terms of economy. So my own sense is like there's no other.
So if you find the right product, which you find a home that you're happy with, good developer, good location, right price, and right price is something you can afford, and something your family can afford, go ahead and buy this festive season. We're here to help you if you have any questions, but we've run out of time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making time for us this evening. I hope we can have a show like this every week through the festive season, helping our viewers out. Thank you so much for watching. Stay with Magic Bricks now for more news and updates.